Council President Gabe Albornoz. It is a pleasure to be with all of you on this Tuesday, March 29th for our full council agenda. And we are going to begin with presentations, and we will start with the joint proclamation by myself and our county executive, Mark Elrich, to recognize Ramadan 2022. Assalamu alaikum. Come on over, please. Everyone looks so lovely this morning. Well, what a pleasure and honor to be with all of you today. But if I'm being candid, it's a little bittersweet because we, of course, are missing the incredible Tufail Ahmad, who has been such a leader and bridge builder in our community now for over a generation. Mr. Ahmad was a mentor to me and a mentor to many, and reminded us every day of the importance of us working together in a community. His work to help establish the Montgomery County Muslim Foundation, and we will hear from their incredible director who has stepped forward in his absence, has been extraordinary, especially through the pandemic. Our Muslim community contributes to Montgomery County in every way imaginable, culturally, economically, artistically, and also through education. And I am honored that here in Montgomery County, we have such leaders, many of which are represented here this morning. And I'm honored to be presenting this proclamation recognizing Ramadan with our county executive, Mr. Mark Elrich. I will now turn it over to him to make a few comments. Mr. County Executive.
So thank you, and it's really nice to be here with everybody. I was going to say how much I appreciate being able to work with this community. In the time I've been on the council and been county executive, this community has played a strong role reaching out to residents, connecting residents to county services, making their voices known to us. If not for many of you, we wouldn't know what the issues had been in the Muslim community, and without you, we wouldn't be able to get our messages to the Muslim community. So it's really a two-way street, and it benefits all of us that are involved in this. Ramadan starts April 2nd, and it's a holy month, and I hope that it brings peace to all of us. These are troubling times. They're not consistent with any of our values, and it would be nice to go into this month and be able to celebrate something different than the reality that we're all dealing with right now. But it's important that you're a part of this group, this family in Montgomery County that really is a family. We are important to us. Your clinics are critically important to us. During COVID, you provided food, you provided clothing, you provided shelter for people. You played a critical role in what it got all of us through. And it's this community and all the other faith communities in the county that stood up together to make sure Montgomery County could be as safe as we could possibly be. So I just want to thank you for all your work with us. I want you to know that it's important, and it's important that the residents know that the role you play, which is partly why we do this, is to highlight the partnership we have with all our communities in Montgomery County. And I just want to thank you for that.
Next, we will hear from Saba Rashid from the Montgomery County Muslim Foundation, who has stepped forward as president.
My speech is not. Thank you so much. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Can you? Thank you so much, County Executive and County Council President Gabe Albornoz, for having this and recognizing this holy month of Ramadan. I also greatly appreciate your kind words that you have said about Mr. Tufail Ahmad. We greatly miss him. He was indeed a bridge builder. He was indeed a unifier. He was indeed a person that is going to be missed for ages. MCMF is really trying to settle in after a great loss, and I don't know whether we can ever be there or anybody can really replace him. We are very proud at this moment of time to have Dr. Shah Nawaz as our current chair, and we're all trying to do our best and be there for all of you and for the entire county, and to keep on building bridges and to keep on unifying together and keep on working with the needs of the county and and helping everyone in need. So I have a little brief thing for the Ramadan. If I would say that I won't take much of your time, but Ramadan for the Muslims is a very significant month for all over the world Muslims. It's a 9th month in the Islamic calendar and one of the 5 key pillars of Islam. Muslims believe that in 610 AD, the angel Gabriel appeared to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in Ramadan and revealed to him the Quran. Ramadan is the most blessed month, and people try to grow spiritually and build stronger relationship with God, praying, intensify their prayers, their acts of charity, their good deeds, and hold up to high standards of morality and standards. So really it's a time of reflection, and most importantly is a time to donate and to give charity. And so that is the key thing that we all believe in and the religion believes in and focuses on. So not only is it a month of fasting and prayer and constant reflection, but it's a month to be morally upright and to hold high standards of honesty and integrity. Key focus is definitely charity, and we at MCMF have been dedicated to follow these principles of Ramadan, of compassion, of helping the needy throughout the year. So it really ends with the Eid al-Fitr, but really the 30 days, but really we continue these projects and these compassion, work throughout the year. So our entire philosophy of MCMF is to have a hunger-free and a hate-free society, and that is the basic principle of Islam. And so we strive for that. We have multiple programs feeding the hungry, youth empowerment. We have youth admission essays, different youth educational programs, coding classes, senior support services, and a new program that developed a few years back when there was a huge influx of refugees, Syrian refugees, and was a refugee rehabilitation program. So we provided them with clothes, cars, food, and now the county is again experiencing these past few months an influx of Afghan refugees, and these people served with us with our forces. So we have an obligation really to support them and to be there for them. So Montgomery County Muslim Foundation has stepped up, and since November 9, 2020, we've been working with the resettlement agencies to provide them with food, clothing, and serving hot meals to them every month. Like every week, every Friday, we have around 50 to 100 meals which are going to the residents in temporary housing kept by the Montgomery County in Montgomery County. So we are providing them foods right now. We are working on a Ramadan basket program, which is going to be serving around 300 families in refugee families, and around 250 to 300 families in Montgomery County, through our regular drive-through operation. So really, we want to and we do intensify our giving and our charity during the month of Ramadan, and try to continue it during the period, throughout the period of Ramadan. So I would like to just say that most of the time we have problems with funding, and we do find that funding and grants are an issue, but our Muslim community always steps up. This year I'm holding the Ramadan basket, and I have raised around over $25,000 to $30,000 from the Muslim community. And so, and the donations are pouring in. So we are really there to serve and to serve everyone. So Ramadan basket doesn't really say focus on Muslims or focus. It focuses on everybody, every other person. Everybody is important to us, and we serve everybody irrespective of any race, color, or religion. So I want to thank you all and thank the county executive and everyone for this proclamation and recognition of this holy month. We pray that it is a very blessed month for the entire Montgomery County, the state of Maryland, and the entire U.S., entire country. So, and a special prayer for peace and end to all conflicts in the world. So thank you so much. Council Member, President, and County Executive for the proclamation and recognition.
Thank you. Beautiful words and very timely. All right, the County Executive and I will now read the proclamation. We will then present a few of the proclamations to this incredible group that's with us, and then we'll take a picture after. So, Proclamation of Montgomery County, Maryland. Whereas Montgomery County takes great pride in being a community of people from all cultures, ethnicities, and religions, including our Muslim American community. And
whereas Muslim culture has had a far-reaching impact on civilization around the globe, and Muslim Americans continue to make substantial contributions to every imaginable profession and trade in Montgomery County and beyond. And
whereas the Muslim American community has been exemplary in civic involvement and community service to improve the quality of life for all communities and to facilitate understanding across all faiths and cultures. And
whereas the Muslim community is contributing and taking part in the development of business, education, labor, employment, health, and housing in Montgomery County. And
whereas Montgomery County residents and employees can benefit tremendously from a deeper understanding of Muslim American heritage and culture, and Muslim Americans are an integral part of our community. And
whereas Islam is a religion of peace, and the Ramadan month is celebrated by Muslims around the world and in Montgomery County, Maryland.
Now, therefore, it be resolved that Mark Elridge as County Executive and Gabe Albornoz as Council President do hereby proclaim April 2nd, 2022 as the start date of Muslim American Ramadan in Montgomery County, Maryland. We encourage our residents to join us in recognizing the contributions of the American Muslim community and to participate in the Ramadan month's activities. Signed today, the 29th of March in the year 2022, by the County Executive and myself. Congratulations, everyone. Thank you. Yes. Please. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's just a proclamation.
Yes.
Yeah, copy it.
There we go.
You mind Faisal? Can you get one too? You mind Faisal?
Of course. All right, let's get together for a picture.
If we can get two lines, yeah, if we can put the taller folks in the back and then shorter folks in the front.
Yes. All right. Thank you all so much. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to move on to our next proclamation. The next proclamation recognizes Food Security Appreciation Week and will be presented by Councilmember Jawando and myself.
All right. Good morning, everybody. We have our guests. You can join us up here from our Food Security Task Force. Happy Ramadan to everybody. I know, look, I understand it's a celebration. Good to see you. So we are celebrating, in addition to Ramadan, Food Security Month, or Week. Sorry, National Food Security Week and Food Security Week here in Montgomery County. And it's something that Councilmember Albornoz and I have really partnered on. I know he'll talk about that. I'm really excited. But something that I've been very focused on, along with everyone behind me and many, many more volunteers and other staff for the last several years. The food work in the county has been a bright spot since I've been on the council, even before with the creation of the Food Council. But we really kicked into high gear when we saw the need out there in the community during the pandemic. Almost a doubling of the need of food security. And we kicked into action with all of the great partners who you'll hear from shortly. And we stepped up and laid an even deeper foundation for greater work to make sure that everyone in our county has the food that they need to survive. And so we have a proclamation today that we're going to read shortly after I introduce Councilmember Albornoz and then our guests, recognizing the great work that's been done, but also laying the foundation for the great work that needs to continue. And it's perfect to go right after our friends from the Muslim Foundation who have been right there on the front lines. I'm glad you stuck around for this because you were a critical part and are a critical part of this work as well with all the distributions in food that you've done. So before I turn to our guests, I want to turn to Councilmember Albornoz to make a couple of remarks, and then we'll introduce our guests to talk about all the great work they've been doing very briefly.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure and privilege to really recognize this week. And as Councilmember Jawando mentioned, the way that our community stepped forward to address the myriad of needs facing our residents who were in crisis has truly been inspiring. And the system that had been established in Montgomery County, thanks to the Food Council and many of the incredible nonprofit organizations partnering with the county, was tested in ways that we never thought was possible. But because of that infrastructure and because of all of the many organizations, both public, private, and nonprofit, that have entered into this space, we are in a far better position than we ever thought we would have been at the beginning of the pandemic. Right now, there are about 100,000 people in Montgomery County who are food insecure, 40,000 of which are children. That means these are individuals who are not sure where their next meal is going to come from. In a community as rich as ours, and when I say rich, I mean that in every way imaginable, we have an obligation to make sure that we address food insecurity in our community, and we have the ability to do so. Thanks to the incredible work of the people behind me, the Montgomery County Community Foundation, our private philanthropy, our business sector, and the county government stepping forward, I think we can credibly say that we can end childhood hunger here in Montgomery County. There's no reason we can't. And we can move on from there and address the needs of our other communities as well. So over the next several years, you will be hearing about the strategic planning and the work that will go into making sure that we solve this issue and address the underlying conditions that lead to it in the first place. It all has to happen together, and we must work together to achieve this incredibly laudable goal. So thank you all so much for being here and inspiring us every day to not just feed our community with food, but with love and with the affection and the support that we've desperately needed. I'll turn it back to Councilmember Jawando to introduce our guests.
I will enjoy doing it, too. Yeah. I wanted to mention, as I introduce, I'm going to go in order just the way you're standing. So throw you a little curveball. Yeah. Okay. But I want to introduce you first, Sandra, because I remember the day that we initiated a special appropriation here of $10 million to work with the Community Foundation, there you are, and support the Food Council, but also initiate Food for Montgomery, which Councilmember Albornoz kind of alluded to, this private sector, public sector partnership to raise funds to feed our residents, to support our farmers, and to help our restaurants that were creating prepared meals. And it was tremendously successful. But a big part of that was shelf-stable food. And all of you here in this room have been or seen the long lines at the food distributions, which we had really not seen. There were people up here, and you'll hear from them, who have been providing food, as you all have and others, but we had not had these massive hundreds, multiple hundreds of food distributions, people coming, lining up for 3-4 hours. That had not happened in Montgomery County, at least in my lifetime that I had seen. And that was a new thing. And we didn't know what we were going to do and how we were going to address that massive need that was just discussed. And you had people step up, like Kingdom Fellowship AME Church. And you're going to hear about the Kingdom Cares Initiative from Sandra Mann, who are now our East County hub. You're going to hear about the Up County hub. These are things that in groups that helped partner with people who had been doing this work like Manna and others for a long time and expanded our capacity and began what I think now is going to allow us, as Councilmember Albornoz said, to solve childhood hunger and to go from there and to keep going down that path so that no one in this county, in the wealthiest county, in the wealthiest state, in the wealthiest nation in the history of the world, 10% of our residents should not be hungry every night. It's a morally unacceptable. And Sandra and Kingdom Fellowship stepped up in the eastern part of our county, are serving as our hub. And I remember that first distribution we did when we partnered White Oak Rec Center with them, and we lined up, and people were there for, at 7 a.m. for a 10 a.m. distribution, waiting in line, and it was cold. And the county executive called me, and the chief of police called and said, "What are you going to do with all these people?" It was right in the middle of COVID, and we organized it and we figured it out, and it served as a model. And so many others around the county stepped up, and now we have 8 hubs that are serving not just food, but testing and diapers and a whole range of things, as you'll hear. But for me, I'm so proud of everyone up here, and I wanted to introduce Sandra to give a minute speech about what the work that they've been doing.
Good morning. Thank you, Councilman Giwando, and to our president and county exec, and to the rest. Like many of our nonprofits and faith-based organizations, we thought we were doing enough, and then the pandemic hit, and we realized that the faces of hunger, the faces of need, look very much like our own. And so we had to mobilize differently. And so through the vision of our executive director of the Kingdom Care Center, Reverend Kendra Smith, who was under the weather today, and through our senior pastor, Reverend Matthew L. Watley, we were able to mobilize over 300 volunteers. We were able to mobilize the community. Thanks to the wonderful partnership, we became an East County hub. And so we were able to do a wonderful thing of serving over 60,000 households to date. Providing 1.5 pounds of food, 1.5 million pounds of food. We expanded to 6 locations across Montgomery County, and now we're into Prince George's County as well. We've established over 15 strategic partnerships to address this need, to ensure that no family goes hungry. We also have deployed, again, over 300 volunteers, and we have been able to provide over $75,000 in a global effort to make sure, as shared before, this is something that is very, very, very important to us as Kingdom Fellowship Community Church and as our Kingdom Care Center. We're excited that we're going to be able to expand even further. In 30 days, we're going to break ground on our new Kingdom Care Center, which is a 94,000 square foot building that will focus on this work 100% of the time. So thank you again for the recognition, and we know that there's still much work to do. May God bless you all. Thank you.
And we're excited about that continued work. Now I'm going to go back in order. Anna Hargraves from the Community Foundation, who I called and was like, "Hey, I have an idea of this fund. Can you help me raise some money? We'll start it." And she said, "Okay, we'll do it." And she gets calls from us a lot in that regard, and she always steps up. her and her team, and we created Food for Montgomery, and she's been a great partner and has funded the Food Council. So I'm going to introduce Anna Hargraves from the Community Foundation.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. It was our honor to partner with the County Council and Executive, the Task Force, and the Food Council in creating the Food for Montgomery Fund, which has raised $2.6 million to date. Now, our first wave of grants enabled our nonprofits and faith-based food distributors to purchase trucks, refrigerators, freezers, and other equipment essential to responding to the surge. But we also invested in our local farms, restaurants, and caterers, so that way they could stay afloat while providing healthy, nourishing meals to those who were hardest hit. Now, knowing that the federal relief is eventually going to run out, we decided to make our next round of grants focus on empowering our nonprofits to deepen their impact even further, prevent waste, and equitably meet the needs of our neighbors who are still struggling to put food on the table. Equally important, these investments will help build a more nimble and resilient food system that will help Montgomery County recover from the pandemic and make us more prepared for the next crisis. I absolutely have to thank our campaign co-chairs, Tracy Friedlander and Jean Sachs, our fundraising ambassadors, and the 1,000 people, businesses, and foundations who gave so generously to Food for Montgomery. I also must recognize the task force, the Food Council, and all of our frontline food distribution partners. Their ingenuity and extraordinary commitment converted those donations into relief for thousands of people across our county. And finally, I must express my appreciation to the council, with extra thanks to Councilmember Jawando for his leadership in getting this initiative going. Your collective vision was the spark that made all of this possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Heather Bruskin, who leads our Montgomery County Food Council, which is one of the most important and probably thankless jobs in the county. And it started out very small, and now she does such great work. Heather Bruskin.
Good morning. A little bit shorter here. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Council President Albornoz, Councilmember Jawando, and the entire County Council, not just for this proclamation this morning, but for your incredible leadership and partnership in this critical work in our community. As we've already talked about this morning, in Montgomery County, we have incredible wealth, but that wealth and the bounty of our local food system is not shared equitably and equally by all of our neighbors. And we saw in Montgomery County a 50% surge in food insecurity as a result of the pandemic. We also saw a 50% increase in the number of residents who are participating in programs like SNAP. But what I see in those numbers is actually a story of the incredible partnership and community that was able to respond to this need and be able to provide safe, sufficient, nutritious, culturally appropriate food to as many neighbors as possible. And what I appreciate most about the ability to do this work in Montgomery County is how everybody sees that their organization, has a critical role to play in this work, and we all have steps that we can take to support our neighbors. In particular, our county government has truly stepped up to lead. They've invested in critical programs, created policies, and most importantly, partnered with the broader community to leverage the unique tools that we all have to fight hunger. I also want to make sure we recognize the over 120 food assistance providers that we have here in Montgomery County. They range tremendously in both their services as well as geographically where they're located, the types of communities and the residents that they support, but each of them plays a pivotal role, and they risked their health and safety during a public health crisis to be able to make sure that as many residents had meals and produce and meat and other critical resources in this crisis. There's not enough room in this room or time today to recognize the over 2,000 nonprofit organizations, philanthropists, residents, community organizations, government agencies, and so many more farms and food and beverage businesses who played a role in this community response. I also want to recognize the residents who shared their lived experience and their voices to ensure the policies and programs that were being created to support them actually met the needs and identified the gaps where we still have work to do. And we do indeed continue to have work to do, but I'm so proud to do it here in Montgomery County. I appreciate the incredible Food Council team who's not here today, but they worked so hard alongside every one of you to make sure that we have a stronger, more resilient food system here in Montgomery County to be prepared for whatever comes next.
There you are. The indomitable Judith Clark from Women Who Care Ministries. You're next.
Mahatma Gandhi said, "There are people in the world so hungry that God cannot appear to them except in the form of bread." I am Judy Clark, and I'm the CEO and founder of Women Who Care Ministries. It indeed takes a village to feed a kid and to feed a family. I want to thank the council for having us here today to receive this proclamation. Never in our entire 21-year history of serving families, and particularly children, have we seen such a demand, an increased demand for services. Sadly, now that so many emergency funds have disappeared, still hunger continues to escalate and affect so many households. And so we're grateful for the county and council's ongoing financial support. I believe I speak for most of us food providers when I say that the incredible work that we have done prior to COVID in fighting hunger pales in comparison to the increased tremendous upscale of services we were able to provide from 2 years ago to the present. It's been a lot of hard work, a lot of commitment, a lot of reduced sleep. But it was worth it, because when we lay our heads on the pillow at night, we are filled with a sense of purpose, of satisfaction, of pride, that by the work of our hands, so many of our residents have been able to eat as a result of the work we do. We've been able to make such a tremendous difference in the lives of these residents, most of whom we don't even know, but we're able to love and care for as though they were our own. Food security is so critical, not just in providing nourishment, but also in the sense of emotional relief it brings. The easing of anxiety to no longer have to worry where the next meal is coming from. Yes, hunger, so serious yet so solvable. We're proud to be a part of the solution, and we proclaim that we're going to continue to do our part in ending child hunger and family hunger, one precious child and one precious family at a time. Thank you.
Awesome. That was very inspiring. Mardia Dennis from our longtime partner, Amanda Food Center.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here to represent all of my friends and coworkers and colleagues at Manna Food Center, and also really to just share how important the work that you inspired and spearheaded and really encouraged us to do. Your support really helped us to continue what we were doing. It was really hard, as all of my partners and friends up here have said. It was really challenging for us to really come together, leave our homes and come and do this work. But like Judy said, we really wanted to make sure that our neighbors and our friends were fed and are cared for. And your work just gave us, your funds and your support gave us the humble audacity to think that we could do it, right? Like, we went out there and we wanted to make sure that we could get it done. And I remember when Anna called and she said, we've got all these restaurant workers and they're out of work, and you need volunteers. What can we do? Bring them in. We've got some money we can pay them. We'll make it work. And I remember when Heather came and we were looking at the farmers, and we wanted to make sure they had all this food, and we had this child match software, and then what can we do with it? So we reconfigured the software to make sure that people who needed to do something, all of the volunteers, all of our neighbors, our friends here in the Montgomery County Muslim Foundation. I remember Mr. Muhammad, would always call. He always reached out and always, wanted to connect our neighbors. And we made sure that we had deliveries, we had volunteers coming in and making sure that they made the connection and delivering food to people's homes. And what we've done now is we've been able to use all of this infrastructure that we put together and turn it into really hope and strengthening our food system. We now have vehicles that have been funded by some of the folks behind me, some of the philanthropists that we've heard about, the Food from Montgomery Fund. We've got innovators that are going into communities that have been previously underserved, that speak the same language, that know the types of food that people want. We're connecting them with farmers that are growing the types of food. And so this whole system is just really coming together and clicking in a way that I don't know if all of us thought was possible or who thought was possible, but I'm just pleased and so honored to be here. And I just wanted to say a special thank you from Manna Food Center to both you, Mr. Jawando, for your innovation. And also, I remember, Mr. Albanaz, when you sent a video for us, for our staff, to just encourage us to keep going. So I want to thank all of you here because that support really means community, and that's why we're here. So thank you for the honor today. I appreciate it.
And last but certainly not least, Grace Rivera Oven, who runs the Up County Hub, does a lot of things, but she and her family, it's been a family endeavor, have done a great job in serving so many needs. And I think I'm glad she's going at the end here because it encapsulates this wraparound approach and how this has developed over time to mean so much for so many in so many different ways. So, Gracie.
Thank you so much. A little shorter than you. Thank you so much. It's very emotional to be up here, and I just want to also remember the 2,000 county residents who lost their lives to COVID. Many of them, including in my family, we knew them, and they were part of our daily lives, and we missed them every day. So let me just say thank you to the council, to the county executive for believing in the hub model. So the hub, the county hub turned 2 years old last week, and we are delighted to be Up County. It started with serving 23 families at the trailer park. It started just out of really desperation of helping those who were being impacted by this wave of need during the pandemic. And if you don't know what the trailer park is, please make the time to go and see your neighbors. It's the only trailer park in Montgomery County in the poorest neighborhood in Montgomery County. So I knew that this community was going to be impacted in a different way. There's no social distancing in a trailer park. And indeed, we lost quite a few dads and moms and grandparents and uncles in that community. But this would not have been possible without Black Rock Center for the Arts, which, if you think about it, a Center for the Arts became a huge food distributor in the Up County. So thank you to Lynn Arndt. And thank you to these three partners who gave us the seed money: HIF, Crystal Towson, the Health Initiative Foundation, the Latino Health Initiative, Sonia Mora, and the Blair and Michael Family Foundation gave us the seed money to keep Black Rock open during those 7.5 months that we went just on the shoulders of people like the Muslim Foundation. Let me thank you for the masks you gave us. I don't remember, we forget early on how we were making masks even out of socks. But this was the reality back then. And you guys came to my aid because these families needed masks. And I asked for 50, you gave me 500. Thank you. So the Greater Washington Foundation, we're feeding folks with hot meals. These families who lose their loved ones, children who have a hot meal. To my son Marco, he's amazing. I know parents, take pride in their kids, but this kid really came through and grew up within 2 years to this incredible leader, and he does it with such passion. And he always tells people what we do is not charity, but these folks behind me, and just take a look, they're all women. I want you to notice that. This is a month of women, and this leadership back here who's taking care of this community every day. So I want to applause for these ladies because they are the true heroes of this community. And but the community in itself, this pandemic has taught us, and to many of us brought us to our knees. to reflect on what's truly important in our lives besides family. And family now expands to community and to neighbors, to the elderly, who some of them are alone every night among us. And let me just give you a quick example. We got a call from a son in California who his elderly parents had no food in the refrigerator. They were from Taiwan, and he could not come over here because they had COVID. And his parents were petrified of going to the store. So they had been eating very rational, just very little. And we called them. I had to get somebody, one of my friends, to talk to them, and we took the food. Until this day, we're in contact with them. But the beauty of creating communities with giving to each other is that those communities come back to you and they give. So I'm honored to say that a lot of our volunteers, over the 4,500 hours in the last 6 months, many of them have been people who have received fruit from the county hub. And many of them have been young people that we are creating these future leaders of tomorrow who know what it is to give to others. And every single one of you in this room has something to do with that. And to both of these gentlemen next to me, to Councilmember Navarro, and who started, with gave Salud and Bienestar when our communities of color were desperately in need of vaccinations and so on, and we created a model and it was followed by others. That is what community is, and that's what leadership is in hard times. And I can proudly say that Montgomery County is my home, and it has opened, it has opened its arms to refugees from many places, including refugees that we are helping and serving from Afghanistan, and we do it with love. And again, this is not charity, this is a mission, and we do it with dignity to those who need a helping hand, because tomorrow might be one of us. We never know. So thank you, council members. Thank you, Gabrielito, as I called you. And thank you, Will, for just your support, and to the ladies behind me, and to all of those people who are helping our communities to make sure that no children goes to bed hungry at night. I thank you so much, and please don't stop until every child in our community goes to bed happy and has the right to get a good education the next day.
All right, let's read the proclamation. I'm going to let Council President start here.
Whereas March 27th through April 2nd has been declared Food Security Week in Montgomery County, highlighting individuals and organizations that have provided necessities and other resources to people and families in need throughout the pandemic. And
whereas food insecurity primarily affects people of color, low-income individuals and families, seniors, and children. The number of food insecure individuals in Montgomery County increased during the COVID-19 pandemic. By October 2020, there were 114,930 food insecure residents, up from 83,700 in 2018. And
whereas to help our neighbors in need during the pandemic, Montgomery County residents sprang into action. Local houses of faith, nonprofits, and community groups partnered with county government and created food distribution sites and food hubs around the county that also offered COVID-19 testing, immunizations, and
whereas in 2020, the Montgomery County Food Council identified a growing gap of resources required to address food insecurity in the county, and Food for Montgomery was created. Funding from this private-public partnership addressed the food security challenges of our residents while simultaneously supporting our local food banks, restaurants, and farmers. And
whereas without the partnership and ongoing support from our numerous providers, the devastation county residents experienced during the pandemic would have been significantly worse. We commend all these groups for their tireless service that continues as we work through COVID-19 recovery. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County hereby recognizes March 27th through April 2nd as Food Security Week, and be it further resolved that the County Council salutes every individual and organization who continues to provide resources to Our Montgomery County Neighbors in Need, presented on this 29th day of March in the year 2022, signed by Councilmember Jawando and myself. Congratulations, everybody.
Close ranks.
Thanks, everybody.
Like getting the game ball. Thank you very much.
You are. All right. Thank you, everyone, so much. We will now move on to our general business. Madam Clerk, do we have any announcements?
Yes, good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, council members. Public hearings on the FY23 operating budget will be held on April 19 and April 20, 2022 at 1:30 p.m. and April 19, 2021, 2022 at 7 p.m. Persons wishing to sign up may do so beginning March 24th, 2022. We have a couple of changes on the agenda. Item 3 has been postponed. Expedited Bill 4921, Police Accountability Board, Administrative Charging Committee established. Item number 5 has been postponed. Action, Executive Regulation 1821, Water Quality Protection Charge, Definition of Treatment. And added to the agenda is item number 6F, on the consent calendar, introduction, resolution to support application to the state for redesignation of Bethesda and Silver Spring Arts and Entertainment Districts in Montgomery County. The lead sponsor is Council President at the request of the County Executive. Action is scheduled for April 5th, 2022. That is all, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. Just a couple of notes here. I want to expand on the reason for the postponement of Expedited Bill 4921, Police Accountability Board. I'm very proud of the work of this council thus far to get us to this point where we had been prepared to vote on this critically important piece of legislation today, given the time constraints and ensuring that it's enacted and that the people from the Police Accountability Board could be recruited and trained and started on July 1st. We have found out that the General Assembly is continuing to consider some amendments to the state legislation that then enacts the bill here in Montgomery County. And we thought it would be prudent to wait for the General Assembly to complete its process and move forward those possible amendments rather than pass a bill that we ourselves would then have to amend to accommodate and adjust based on what the General Assembly does. So our understanding is that that will be voted on this week. And so our hope is that we can bring this back before the full council as early as next Tuesday to be able to vote on. But we will be keeping close track of what happens in Annapolis. Two other notes are we're all very happy that Councilmember Friedson, who unfortunately had COVID recently, is doing fine and never had more than just some small symptoms. But he will be joining us virtually today, as will Councilmember Navarro as well. So with that, we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a work session to discuss the Economic Development Strategic Plan developed by the Montgomery County Development Economic Corporation. And I want to turn it over to our chair of the Planning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee, Chairman Reamer, to make some opening comments. Chairman Reamer.
Well, thank you. I'm pleased to present the committee recommendation, and I would like to Also, of course, recognize Councilmember Friedson and Councilmember Navarro, who we worked, the three of us together with Councilmember Friedson in the lead, to introduce legislation to put MCEDC in the driver's seat for an economic development strategic plan. And this was a very helpful update of a law passed many years ago to require the executive branch to create an economic development strategic plan. And we felt that shifting that to MCEDC would create a more dynamic and evolving process, as well as sort of a bridge between the two branches. And they got to work and produced a plan, which is now before us to, bless you, to adopt as a resolution in a, not necessarily in the word for word of the document that received, but a version of it. And the committee met to walk through it. So we're joined today by Ben Wu, the CEO of MCEDC, and Bill Tompkins, the COO, Jake Weissman at the executive branch, a CAO. And, we will ask MCEDC to walk through the highlights of the document. And then certainly we'll turn, if Councilmember Friedson wanted to make a comment. I would like to just preface our discussion by saying that I think we are in a moment of opportunity and also in a moment of great challenge with economic development. And what we see from the data is that there are fewer private sector jobs today than there were 10 years ago in Montgomery County. And we see that while our life sciences sector is growing, it's not growing at the same rapid rate as San Diego or North Carolina or Boston. And you can see the evidence of this if you go to Dulles Airport, which I know everybody does from time to time, and you see all the office towers and you see the big logos. And what has happened in this region over the last 30 years has been a significant shift in the economic model of the region. And now that part of the region has been growing in leaps and bounds. And a lot of those jobs that would have been once in Montgomery County are now in Northern Virginia. And that's a challenge for us because our community relies upon breadwinners to bring home paychecks to their families and relies upon the tax revenues that high-paying jobs and our small businesses rely upon being in a strong economic environment. It all has to work together. So the plan that we have has given us, I think, helpful ways to think about taking advantage of the opportunities that we have, recognizing the strengths that we have to invest in, to build programs around, and to execute upon. And I am confident that if we, as a county, can rally around these kinds of ideas, as we have been trying to do at this council over the last several years, to be clear, we have been executing on a lot of these ideas. If we can rally around this framework and make these kinds of investments and strategic decisions around policies and laws, that we can get our momentum and we can grow our private sector base and we can have a virtuous, positive, growing private economy, which we need. So with that, I will
actually real quick, Councilmember Reamer, Councilmember Friedson did want to say some opening comments.
I was going to pass it to you to pass it to him.
Great.
I just say that Gene Smith will walk through the fairly small changes that the committee made, and then we'll have MCEDC make its presentations. Back to you.
Perfect. Councilmember Friedson.
Good morning. Coming in from the big screen here. First of all, thanks everybody for your well wishes. Really appreciate it. As Council President said, I'm feeling well and appreciate it, but taking the additional precaution and appreciate the opportunity to join virtually. I'm very pleased and excited. I really do think that this is an important first step to a far more collaborative, cohesive economic development strategy for the county. I really want to thank Chair Reamer and Chair Navarro. We worked together closely on this in introducing it, and MCEDC and Gene Smith and also Jake Weissman. This really was a collaborative effort between the executive branch, the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, and the council. The way I hope will be the model moving forward for how we do economic development, and really is the entire purpose of this undertaking and this effort and shifting the responsibility for crafting and implementing this strategy from the executive branch to the experts in the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, I think is a significant step forward to hand the ball and allow our economic development efforts to move forward, and to have one place where we can agree on, to literally and figuratively get on the same page when it comes to growing our local economy. I think it's important to note that this is the first step in what is intended to be an iterative process. This isn't a one-time strategy. This is a strategy that we approve and are intended to refine every 2 years and to reapprove every 4 years. And so the whole purpose of this is to be a living document. It's not supposed to be the final document, but I think this is a really critical step forward. And you heard Councilmember Reamer note the efforts that he and my predecessor, Roger Berliner, undertook to initiate the first economic development strategic plan under the Leggett administration under law. And special thanks also joining us from the big screen, Councilmember Navarro, for her efforts, not just on this bill, but really on the economic development platform, and on her efforts starting in the first year of this term when she was serving as council president, and really ensuring that the county was focused on growing our tax base and creating economic opportunities, understanding that it's the tax base that creates the revenue that provides the services that vulnerable residents need and that supports all of our quality of life. The goal here is to bring everybody on the same page, to have one unified vision. I really think this moves us in that direction. I know Ben Wu and Bill Tompkins, so I just wanted to thank for their efforts along with their team, but they talk a lot about connecting the dots. I think that was actually the title of their last report. And I really do think that this document does help connect the dots, not just in what we need to do, but on who needs to do it, connecting the dots for each of us. And I think that this will continue to connect the dots as we build on this living document moving forward. This plan does include some new metrics, which are something that the committee pushed for and continues to push for, so we can measure our success. There's an opportunity to build off of those metrics as we move forward, and I know we'll have an opportunity to refine this in the 2 years to come and beyond that as part of the regular refinement process that was enshrined into law. So thank you for all the efforts, and I will just say Montgomery County has unrivaled economic bones, and this report reflects that. And the purpose here is by bringing everybody together and agreeing on what our strategy is in a comprehensive, collaborative, and cohesive way, we can ensure that we are as strong in Montgomery County as the sum of our parts, and that we have an economy that is as strong as the sum of its individual elements. I believe we can do that. I believe this document will help us move in that direction, and I just am very thankful and appreciative for everybody's efforts on this and more broadly on growing our local tax base and supporting our local economy. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Navarro wanted to make some opening comments as well. Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mr. President, and it's awesome to be able to use this technology. Feel a little under the weather, but it's great to be able to join in this fashion. Yes, so thank you to Councilmember Friedson, Chairman Reamer, and our Economic Development Corporation for taking this on. I am a firm believer that unless we have specific strategic points and also measurable outcomes, it's very difficult to achieve our collective goals. And no doubt that our county has extraordinary assets, but we do have to be focused on what are those elements that will help us leverage those assets in order for us to achieve what we need to achieve. And the bottom line is that for many years, it was a little bit all over the place. And, this is why in 2019, after hearing time and time again, and I know that during the 2018 campaign cycle, this was something that we would hear everywhere we would go, was this notion of what is the strategic vision, what are the measurable outcomes that every one of us was hoping to seek in the space of economic development. And so that is why we came together to put forth this economic development platform with some very specific elements that I am very, very happy have become the foundation of this strategic plan. It is quite important. I also really like the fact that this is a living document, because there's no doubt that, conditions change, as we have learned this pandemic, and sometimes we do have to pivot, and maybe we have to retool and reprioritize some particular areas. So this is great news. I am sure that our private sector welcomes this, but I know that the entire county welcomes this, because no doubt we do have to figure out how to continue to expand our tax base, but more than anything, open access to opportunities and create jobs, because our conversation around equity is not just a conversation about addressing disparities. It's also about a conversation to expand opportunities from a perspective of abundance. We can do this. And I think this particular plan will take us a long way. So thank you so much for allowing me to join, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you so much. Appreciate all those comments, especially that last one. I think that's so true. We have a great panel here. We have Mr. Jake Weissman, Assistant Chief Administrative Officer in the Office of the County Executive, Mr. Ben Wu, President and CEO of the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, and Mr. Bill Tompkins, Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of MCEDC. I will now turn it over to Legislative Analyst Gene Smith to walk us through the packet. And Gene, thank you for your leadership in many ways as well, my friend.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. President. I'll go through some of the processes and kind of deadlines that the council has this year. I'll save the fun of the plan to MCDC, who drafted this, and I'll go through that in a minute. As already noted, the timing has been changed in the law with the Economic Development Strategic Plan, and so the MCDC was intended to draft and submit it to the council and executive by December 31st of 2021, which they did. The executive was able to provide comments and recommendations to amend the plan by January 31st of 2020, which he did. And those are on circles 68 through 78 for those following at home or following on your screen, just so you can see what Mr. Elrich submitted. The council must hold a public hearing, which it did on February 8th. And then, as Mr. Ream already said, the council will adopt this plan by resolution. As noted during the Fed committee meeting, the actual document will just be attached to the resolution. The resolution is just not going to copy and paste it. So on circles 79 through 141 is the plan as amended by the Fed committee that is before the council today for its consideration. And as discussed during the Fed committee meeting, the council members are welcome to amend the document as they wish, just like the Fed committee did, if there's any questions or comments. And what the intent today is to get understanding of what document the council wants to adopt, so that next week on April 5th, we'll just adopt it as a resolution on a consent calendar. And so I would look today as like a straw vote kind of day. With that, I will go ahead and, I'm sorry. And the last thing, and thanks to Ms. Navarro and Mr. Friedson for pointing out the items that are in the bill as required for the Economic Development Strategic Plan. So as the bill required, it needed to be consistent with the Economic Development Platform as adopted by Resolution 19-300 by the Council, as well as include the outcomes that were in that resolution. And it also needed to include measures such as creating jobs, growing wages, and focusing on strategic industries, which the plan does all of these things, and as was noted in the council staff packet where this happened. So with that, Mr. President, I'll turn it over to MCDC to walk through the high-level elements of the plan, and then we can turn it back over to the council for questions, comments, discussion.
Good morning, members of the council, council president. I wanted to thank you, Council President Albornoz, and the members of the council for the confidence that you provided to MCDC to be a catalyst in our conversation about imagining Montgomery County's economy for the future. We were pleased to be named in Council Member Friedson's bill to come up with the initial platform and the framework for this conversation today. And in doing so, we wanted to make sure that it incorporated the values and the priorities of Montgomery County, the community, and also of the council's economic development platform that had been passed. And so in doing so, we've been able to engage very closely with the county executive as well as with the council staff. And so we wanted to acknowledge the hard work of the council staff, Gene Smith in particular, and also the county executive and the county executive's team, because we've been working to refine the initial draft for the past 2 months to be able to present the document before you today. And we have a belief that Montgomery County's assets are very strong, and that the foundation of a livable and growing Montgomery County should be rooted in equity and also filled with growth opportunities. And so the vision and values that are reflected in this document are those that have been espoused by the council and by members of Montgomery County community. This plan is designed to provide guidance and a direction on the future of Montgomery County's strategic priorities for growing our economy that will allow us to be able to continue to attract, retain, and expand companies in Montgomery County, and in doing so, enhance not just our business community, but also our quality of life. And this is also, we recognize that there are competitive pressures that we face both regionally and nationally and even globally. And so this document is designed to position ourselves to be able to undertake these challenges. You know, we've heard many a time that in terms of economic development, people understand what Montgomery County is against, but not what Montgomery County is for. What this plan does is provide us with a document that can espouse what Montgomery County is for and what our values and our vision is for our future and growing our community. And it requires Montgomery County to move forward together. And that's, in fact, the title of this plan, Moving Forward Together, because as has been stated, this is a collective effort. No single entity and organization is responsible for Montgomery County's economic development. While it's certainly a mission of MCDC, if we are to take a look holistically about economic development and growing our economy in the county, we recognize that there are a number of components and a number of stakeholders that must work together. And so with this document, we can present a shared vision towards a shared prosperity. I also want to acknowledge and recognize the hard work of the MCDC staff. Once the council had passed the resolution to have MCDC be the initiator of this document and this plan, we set to work. And it was through the leadership of Bill Tompkins and the MCDC team that have been working for over half a year in putting together the framework of this document that is presented to you today. So with that, I wanted to acknowledge Mr. Tompkins for all of his hard work and leadership, but also to turn it over to him to say a few words.
I think we should just get into the work. This is like herding cats, I got to tell you. So I want to reemphasize what Councilmember Friedson said and something that Councilmember Navarro mentioned about moving forward together. We've been moving forward in a lot of different directions. And moving forward together means we're all on the same page with the same themes. And I challenge us as a county to stick to these themes, even if you change them or alter the plan. Stick to the plan, but alter it as necessary, because every time we turn around, we find something new to take a look at, or let's go follow a new venture here, there, or elsewhere. And I think it's incredibly important that we stay on the same page and move in the same direction, regardless of what's happening politically or around us, but we commit to these things and push hard to make them happen. Back to Council Member Navarro talking about this being a living document. This was not easy to put together. You know, it's our first time, we're learning. And so you can change it. It's breathing, you can change it when we're working together. So even though we won't meet for another officially until 2023 to make formal changes, our work plan is adopted every year. We meet with the Fed committee every 3 or 4 months. We meet here. And that's the opportunity to say, wait a minute, you need to tweak this, or we're not moving as quickly as we would like in terms of a truly diverse economy. And so we're willing to change that because that's why we're here. We're here probably more to make the county move forward than to have a great plan that sits on a table. So if you want to read through the 100 recommendations or so, and Gina keeps reminding me, I wanted us to have 10, and so it sort of evolved into 100 recommendations, some of which are specific, and I will tell you right now that as you read through this, you may ask the question. In some cases, there are strategies, and in some cases, we got so interested that we put in tactics. And so there is some inconsistency to the plan in that there are not tactics for every single thing we're doing here, but instead the strategies that are laid out and then an idea of what types of tactics work or we think will work. That being said, what I like about the introduction is we talk about the vision for Montgomery County and where we think we'll be. There are sort of 8 outcomes that continue to make it a great place to live, work, and play. And what I will say, as we've looked at what businesses are looking for more and more, it's not just about the best tax rates. It's not just about the ease of doing business with the county. It really is about the quality of life. And if you don't believe that, especially as you get slightly older, more than 24, you'll find that all those things matter. And so we talk about an economic development plan, but it is also about the pillars. It is about housing. It is about transportation. It is about the parks that we have here. It is about the bike lanes too. So all that matters. You know, everybody has their own priority, but you have to put that together because that's one of our biggest competitive advantages in terms of the DMV, but also comparing ourselves to other markets like Boston, like even Northern California, Silicon Valley. So don't forget that. I don't like the phrase, it's a great place to live, work, and play. So somebody's going to come up with a new version of that. But the bottom line is that's what it's going to take to move us forward. And that's what also allows us or accommodates us to do a lot of different things in terms of your specific interest, not just where's the next job going to come from and what's the next company that's going to, quote, relocate here. Also remember that it's not about the companies that are coming here. It's about taking the assets that we have and making them work harder for us. And so we don't forget our existing constituencies as we move forward. We divided everything into 4 priorities, which are listed A, B, C, and D. They are not necessarily in priority order. They're all important. So please keep that in mind. The first section really does relate to accelerating innovative economic drivers and entrepreneurship. It's like, what are the categories of businesses that we're focusing on? And it's not that all businesses aren't important, but which are the ones that are going to sort of help to make us excel and stretch a little bit more and own that space. You have to have retail. You have to have a strong development industry. You have to have a strong service industry. And yes, we take that for granted that if we don't, we'll go nowhere fast. But if you want to make us grow at a point or two higher than we have in the past, then you got to pick some other areas where we're unique or special. And that's why we talk about life sciences. That's why we talk about hospitality technology. That's why we talk about quantum, which is way down the road, but you can't just look at what's going to happen during the next election cycle. It's what's going to be here for your kids. So that whole first section sort of looks at those categories and why they are opportunities and what we can do to sort of push those and leverage those. Part 2, or Section B, providing greater workforce and educational opportunities. The bottom line is if you don't have a strong workforce, whether it is already here or whether it's coming here, then you cannot fill the jobs that are going to be required for businesses. And when you look at that, it ties so much to the educational system and the experience and the expertise of people who are here and who are also coming here. So what's that caused us to do is to look at a 360 approach to education. It's not just about saying go out and get a degree. It's really looking at the pathways that exist for anybody, regardless of their background or their source. It looks at starting with MCPS. It looks at what is happening with Montgomery College and USG. It looks at what the private sector is doing to educate the workforce and to re-educate and reposition the workforce so that they are prepared in ways that they were never prepared for to fill a broader array of jobs that are here and a broader way of higher paying jobs. Notice I don't say high paying jobs. Of course we want that. Everybody wants to make a lot of money, but that's not realistic. We've got to make sure that everybody has more than a living wage, because you need that in Montgomery County. Forget about a living wage, like double or triple it, and then maybe we can talk. So it's about higher wages across a much broader spectrum of the population. The talent pipeline is still critical. There are lots of jobs out there that companies would like to fill even today, but the workforce is not here. And while we would like to grow our talent locally, we've got to be able to attract people here, keep them in the county, but also attract talent for other areas. So that's why this combination of the talent pipeline, meaning the workforce, and education, to us go hand in hand. And we've signed MOUs with a number of the educational institutions here, and you'll see us spending a lot of time on workforce development, much more than we ever have in the past. Most of you know that WorkSource Montgomery is co-located with us like 5 feet away in our offices, but it also goes beyond what WorkSource Montgomery does. It really does look at the private sector and the 100 or so agencies or 150 agencies across the county that are involved in workforce development. The third area relates to this live, work, and play piece a little bit, and it's about transportation and housing. And I know everybody yells and screams. Housing is a big problem for the entire DMV. But let's not worry about the rest of the DMV. What are we doing here? We have a shortage in housing, not just affordable housing, but housing that is affordable. So the affordable housing issue is a shorter term challenge, but housing that is affordable for teachers, for police, our police force, for other county employees, for people who are at that mid-level is just as important as it is for affordable housing. And we still want to have a really broad array of a housing stock that makes a difference. We are sort of behind, but we're not alone. We're not alone in the DMV, but we are definitely behind in terms of benchmarking where we are going to need to be to keep the residents who are here, a very diverse population, one of the most diverse in the country, to be able to live comfortably, or just to live here and not move to Frederick County, not move elsewhere to come in to do county jobs or to do jobs in life sciences and elsewhere. Transportation, not one of my favorite subjects, but probably one of the most important, to make sure that we have transportation options here. It's a huge county, and I think we forget that. It's not just about my favorite conversations around what's happening on the Beltway or I-270. It's how do you get across the county? How do you, if you're up in the upper county or if you live on the east side, how do you get to where jobs are or to where you need to be to participate in the economy in a bigger way? And so without an important and strong transportation network that is both accessible for all and one that we invest in so that people feel comfortable being here, or even if you're commuting in from other jurisdictions, we welcome that too. So the transportation network is very important, very hard to pull together, and there are some sacrifices there. In reading some of the plans, everybody wants a short commuter distance. Well, that's not necessarily going to happen to make it easier for everybody to get to where they need to be. And so the example I use is that, I have a 20-minute commute by car to work. Well, suppose you told me that it might be 25 minutes, but you give me 3 more options. It's taking me longer to get there, but at least I have a backup, whether I take the metro, whether I take bus rapid transit, whether I drive, God forbid, or try riding my bicycle. And so that's where the mix is going to change the dynamics of what transportation looks like here. And you've got to be, that makes it also more inclusive because not everybody is going to have the same option. I will say I'm glad I bought an electric car about 8 months ago because with the gas prices today, I'd have to work overtime or I'd have to work and be Ben's other assistant in order to pay the gas bills. I don't know how we're doing it these days, $4 or $5 a gallon for gas, not just because of what's happening in Eastern Europe, but we don't know how long that's going to be here. So it is great to have options and to have a backup. The last section relates to an inclusive economy, and we decided to focus on 2 things, both of which are incredibly important to the county. One does have to do with sustainability and our climate action plan, one of the most aggressive and broad plans that you'll find anywhere in the country. It's expensive to implement, but once it's done, it gives us competitive advantages that no other region in the country will have in terms of attracting businesses and ultimately making it more efficient to do business here and less expensive. And as we've always said, having an inclusive economy is not only important to us, it's what we're all about. We are a diverse population, becoming more diverse day by day, hour by hour, and that's not going to change. And if you don't recognize the fact that more people are going to have needs to have a place at the table that are not consistent with what they had in the past, then we're not really telling the truth about the future of Montgomery County. The question is, how do you put extra focus against intentionally making opportunities for diverse businesses and others to participate in the economy here? So that's why it's also about community wealth building. It's not about how much is in your paycheck. You know, that's fine. That's great. I earn X amount of dollars, but do I own a house? Do I have stock? Do I have other things that build wealth, not only for me and my siblings and my kids, but also to pass on to other generations? So we want to move from income, which is important, to wealth building, which means we all get to share a little bit more. Those are the 4 sections. We had lots of conversations about metrics, and that's going to continue. And I can tell you right now that in some cases this is very aspirational. So we're working on what does the metric actually look like, back to Councilmember Navarro. Some things you can measure, but other things we have no clue what the baseline should be at this point. What is the right target for growing jobs in the life sciences area? So those are things that we're working on behind the scenes. The question gets asked, how do you go from number 5 or number 4 to number 3 in life sciences? There is a national organization that officially measures that, and many of the real estate firms like JLL and others do annual studies. So we're honing in on the actual metric that we're going to use so that you can not only see what it means to go from number 5 to 4 to 3, but also what you're going to have to do to get there. So those metrics will continue to be developed both this week, next week, and as we go through the next year, and some of our learnings for where we're making progress in terms of the unemployment rate or other factors that say we tried these programs, now we know what a true baseline will look like a year from now, but we may not know today. So we value your input there, and if you got additional suggestions in terms of specifics, we're happy to entertain them and then happy to refine them as this is a living document. I'm going to stop there and listen to the smart people in the room and what you have to say or what you want to know more about or how you're going to make this a better plan.
That was it? That was the presentation? Okay. All right. So Councilmember Rice.
Well, thank you very much, Councilmember Albornoz. And I first just wanted to start off, Mr. Tompkins, you said a couple things that struck a chord with me when you kept mentioning political wins. You know, it's very interesting. There's a lot of hyperbole out in the sphere now that talks about how business development is so, you know, back and forth based on where politics and people are. I just want to let you know that the reality is that a lot of elected officials care about their communities and are committed to making sure that the decisions that are reflected by folks who are making the decisions about how to support businesses are what people who elect us are asking for. It's not something as simple as a categorization of political wins. It is what the people who elect us, who pay your salary just like mine, are asking for. So I just want to be very clear about that as we start, because there needs to be respect given to those individuals who are insisting on the changes that we see based on the lack of support that they are seeing that they're not getting from their government and from entities like MCEDC. So let me start there. Because I think it's interesting. I'm curious, has MCEDC ever done an introductory letter about the things that they do and the services that they provide to all of Montgomery County businesses?
To all businesses, no. There are 30,000 businesses out there. We have put a lot of things out on the internet through social media. So we do have those tools. We do have introductory documents Whether we have reached them all or not, I can't say, but we have reached thousands and thousands of businesses, both in the short term and over time.
So as a husband of a business owner here in Montgomery County, she's never received anything from MCEDC. I can tell you that a lot of the folks who she works with, who are also women minority-owned businesses here in Montgomery County, have never received anything from MCEDC. The reason why I say that is because it's interesting. Phoenix Salon and Suites that rented out the bottom of the car building, who employed or who actually subleased out to 25 individual, mainly women, minority-owned businesses, individuals who had their own suites, were displaced recently. Carr decided to cut the lease, and so those individuals found themselves scrambling to find lease space. Would have been a great opportunity for MCEDC to step in, if they had had a relationship with them, to say, hey, we can help you to stay here in the county and to stay employed and to keep your businesses, all of which were doing great and viable, I know, because I saw them quite regularly. And the reason why I say that is because so many of those women that I talked to were crying as they said that this was something that they started and that they wanted to continue, and felt as though all of the energy and everything that they had put into this was lost. I found myself as an individual who happened to be, a little aware of some of the things that we provide and connected them. But I, as a council member, am not MCEDC. I, as a council member, do not have the resources that MCEDC does. And so I would just encourage you, as you're thinking about this, just take a step back. Because you mentioned about service, and you're right. Service is not the only thing that is going to drive economic development success here in this county. But it is one of the things that is the foundation. And if the foundation is shaky, then the rest that you're trying to build upon is not going to be stable as well. So, to that end, I would ask that we look at making sure that we send out a letter. Many of us, as you know, and you mentioned about political wins, many of us on this council have sent out hundreds of thousands of communications to all of our residents in Montgomery County as registered voters. So it's not something that's truly massively expensive nor hard to do. The lists are there in terms of who's registered as a business owner in Montgomery County, and I would encourage you to do that because they'd have to be following you to see it on social media. They'd have to know you exist to find you on the website. Many of these folks have no idea what MCEDC is or does. And the interesting thing is that I believe that the relationship that could be forged between you and these businesses could help these businesses to become even more successful and help them to grow into the next Wedding Wire, into the next Beyond, into the next. Those are the things. These are innovators that are out there. You know, it was interesting. NPR did an article in January talking about the rise of entrepreneurship, not only here in the United States, but across the globe in the midst of the global pandemic. We're missing the boat if we don't seize the opportunity to reach out to these individuals and tap into their entrepreneurial spirit and help them to grow here in this county. So I'll leave that one for you. My last one is nonprofits. Again, great businesses that are here in Montgomery County, but I don't see them listed at all as a part of your plan. Can you tell me about the relationship between nonprofits and MCEDC?
Sure. Nonprofits is listed in our work plan. So remember, this is the county plan for all of us together. If you go to our MCEDC work plan, nonprofits is one of the 5 or 6 targets. We've actually hired someone to focus on nonprofits and have expanded our presence and activity. We've also learned a lot. You know, we implemented the state's nonprofit relief fund at the end of last year, and it really allowed us to get into what drives nonprofits in terms of success here, why they're here, and to also understand that one size does not fit all.
Yeah, and also, council member, if I could just add that in Montgomery County, we recognize that we have the largest concentration of nonprofits in the state. We have over 7,000. And these are organizations that not just employ people, but also because of their mission, do have an impact on economic development. And so in order to try to cultivate that, we had the nonprofit program, nonprofit grants for economic development last year, in which we opened up to all the nonprofits in Montgomery County. And we distributed $3.4 million of state funds to be able to support that, including several organizations that received much larger grants, above $100,000. And because of these nonprofit programs, we've been able to establish connections. Like, for example, the Maryland Technology Council received a $40,000 grant that created the BioHub network to help support life sciences workforce. And now it's been so successful, they're trying to bring that out through the rest of the state. And they have been working on the federal level to secure funding to be able to do that. We also had engagement with the people who, some of whom appeared before us today, in terms of the food security resolution that Congressman Juando had championed. We recognize that nonprofits in Montgomery County represent a unique sector of our employment base, and we have been trying to make sure that that's represented in our economic development plan. It's not listed directly here for the overall strategic plan for the county, but for MCDC, it's recognized in our work plan, and it's also recognized in our Connecting the Dots action plan.
I think that, again, part of the concern, and it's interesting because we've had the same conversation around Thrive, is that when things aren't mentioned, people assume that it's not a priority. And so I just caution us, while I certainly understand and appreciate that it's listed there, when we talk about what our strategy is, and if you're not listed as a part of the strategy, you think you're not a part of the solution or part of what it is that we do. And so from that perspective, I would just have us think about that. And I apologize, I actually did have one last one on there. 93,000 acres of our landmass here in this county is devoted to our agricultural reserve. And I'm curious about what the relationship is between MCEDC and our farming community that, again, employs a large number of people and has a huge amount, especially when it comes to commodities farming. But as we look to switch and help our farmers to convert from commodities farming to table, farm-to-table farming, that's going to be incredibly important for us on so many levels. From a national security standpoint, as I meet with folks on Capitol Hill and talk about food insecurity, as Councilmember Juando highlighted this morning, to everything from employment of individuals as well here in this county. So I'm curious as to where our farm community and that business plays into the strategic plan as well.
Sure. In terms of recognizing the importance of the agricultural reserve, it is also front and center. We met with the staff there in terms of what their needs are, in terms of how you convert opportunities into economic development and what the power of the farm community is here. We are now going to switch to MCEDC for a second again. Engaged in a relatively new initiative. You saw Heather Breskin up here earlier. We've worked with the Food Council, but in terms of this broader food network, and I don't want to say from farm to table, but this whole concept of doing everything from having the food incubator to what you do to have more locally sourced food here. We've assigned actually one of our staff people to work on that. It is evolving. It has not always been front and center for MCEDC, but because of the importance of the diversity of the economy and leveraging what is there in the agricultural reserve and converting that to a true benefit, not just because it's nice to go visit, but because it develops or generates economic activity, that has moved onto our radar screen. And we have dedicated someone to work with the entire group, with the food chain, to create opportunities.
I appreciate that, and just wanted to highlight that the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments created a brand new committee called the Farm Committee. I am one of the vice chairs of that committee. And so I would encourage whoever your new staff person is to start attending those meetings so they could hear about some of the great things that are going on in other regions, but also be there when we're talking about the innovation that we think is necessary to help continue to spawn the success when it comes to addressing food insecurity and, more importantly, about that economic development that ties directly into farming. So Just wanted to flag that for you as well. Thank you very much.
And Councilmember Rice, if I could.
Sorry.
I just wanted to add, at the risk of focusing a little bit too granularly on MCDC, because this action plan, this strategic plan, is a holistic approach that incorporates a number of different components and a number of different organizations in order to make our economic development successful. But if I could just address that question that you raised about MCDC and the agricultural preserve, we recognize that it's 1/3 of our county, and that we also share the belief that we should try to make that 1/3 of our population or landmass as effective and viable economic development initiator as possible. So as Bill mentioned, we have been working with the county executive. He's very interested in trying to create a food incubator, and we've been working with the Food Council towards that end. We've also been engaged with Visit Montgomery to help support wineries and breweries, and also we are actually exploring, in conjunction with Visit Montgomery right now, a federal opportunity for grants through the USDA for the FTS in order to create the farm to table and to create more of a business connection there. So we recognize that that's an important area, and we also work very closely with the Office of Agriculture, Jeremy Chris, to try to be able to enhance those opportunities. While it may not be as reflected as much in this strategic plan, in our action plan for MCDC, in our work plan, we also have it recognized. So, if I could just suggest that, this strategic plan is not designed to be focused on MCDC, because while we do have at the heart of our mission in our organization economic development, we do recognize that we cannot be and are not the only entity that impacts economic development, and that economic development is a holistic approach that includes sustainability, inclusivity, transportation, and a number of other initiatives that the county has really been undertaking over the course of the past 2 years. This document tries to incorporate as much of the strategic plans and the forward thinking that a number of the agencies have expressed and issued in their strategic plans in order for us to be able to craft and knit a comprehensive approach about where we believe we need to go, but reinforced by the values and the vision of what our strategic priorities need to be. So while MCDC, we live and breathe that every day and try to wake up every morning thinking how we can support our economic development, we also recognize that in the other organizations, their missions also impact economic development, and that we also need their assistance. So we are continuing to collaborate as much as we can with other agencies. We have, through the Montgomery County Commerce Cabinet, the opportunity to engage with a 14-member entity of executive agencies and organizations that try to create at least a vision and also several initiatives that can move us forward in economic development. And so we'll continue to work through that entity, through the council and others, but for MCDC, we recognize how collaborative we must be as an organization in order for us to be successful, in order for the county to be successful from an economic development perspective.
Thank you. I've got Council Vice President Glass, followed by Councilmember Katz, and then Councilmember Juando. Council Vice President Glass.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for the presentation, gentlemen. I like how, Mr. Tompkins, you described it as a living, breathing document. I certainly subscribe to that philosophy regarding the U.S. Constitution, and I'll accept that advice when reviewing this, not only at this point in time, but in subsequent years as our economy, our community continues to evolve and change. And so I think that is the correct way to think about this, and this is the starting point. And so I appreciate this conversation as we go through this process for the first time, as you noted, and sharing with us some of the internal thoughts and processes, and recognizing that not everything is here, and that there are some questions to remain. And that is what this conversation, not only here in this chamber, but within the community, is for. And I also appreciate framing economic development in the context of quality of life, recognizing that CEOs oftentimes move their companies to places they personally want to live, that decisions for companies are made based on the preferences of their employees. And there is no greater example than Marriott here in Montgomery County moving from a suburban office park to downtown Bethesda, because that's what the employees, specifically their younger employees, wanted, right? Important distinction as we talk about age and changing demographics. And then final observation from your comments was about also regarding employees, and it was about housing and housing for middle-class professionals. And we are having that great debate right now in this community. And we talk about affordable housing. Well, we have to figure out how teachers and first responders and healthcare professionals can afford to live in our community. And so I appreciate you elevating that. Piggybacking off the comments that Councilmember Rice was saying, we do have some great stories here, and we just have to do a better job of telling them. And I know that narrative itself about communications has been told time and time again, but I'm not quite sure we're acting upon it. So many of us have conversations and people just don't know about the services we provide, about the world-class international businesses that are here, particularly over the last 2 years, those that have been keeping our community and the global community healthy and safe during the pandemic. In addition to the federal installations we have here, all the life sciences. And so elevating, moving us up those ranks, as you had said, from 4th or 5th nationally in the life sciences biotech, further up, elevating again the good work that we have here. And we have to do all this moving together. The piece I think that we need to continue working upon and fine-tuning is the recognition that 95% of our businesses here in Montgomery County are small businesses with fewer than 50 employees. And we cannot forget them. We have to make sure that the female-owned, immigrant-owned, minority-owned small businesses know that we are here to help them. And we can continue doing special appropriations. We can continue having certain programs devoted to them, but I think that misses the mark until they are fully incorporated in the grand vision. And we can continue trying to do outreach and encourage businesses to come here, but I think the most cost-effective way of doing economic development is growing our own and retaining those that are here and helping them move from small business to medium-sized business and up that food chain. And in reviewing the authorizing legislation that empowered you all, MCEDC, to do this, I noticed that there were 4 outcomes that the legislation asked of this report. And it said the desired outcomes of the Economic Development Strategic Plan should include 1, a thriving and diversified economy, 2, racial equity and social justice, 3, greater innovation, and 4, environmental sustainability, including a reduction in climate change. And so, Mr. Wu and Mr. Tompkins, I'm curious how you think that this report has lived up to those 4 outcomes as we as a county have asked that this report include.
So the action plan or the strategic plan calls out those as priorities. And in terms of initiatives that will be undertaken, I can talk a little bit about that in terms of what we would like to be able to do within MCDC, working in conjunction with the executive agencies. I think The issue about inclusivity and racial equity, that's clearly a paramount issue. The council has spoken very clearly about it. The county executive has made it a priority, and we wanted to be as aggressive as we can to create that inclusive economy. We're also working regionally to be able to support that as well, too, not just here in Montgomery County, but also working with organizations like Connected DMV, the Greater Washington Board of Trade, and the Council of Governments to be able to support that effort. We were selected just recently by IEDC to be one of 5 national cohorts around the country to be, in a sense, role models for inclusivity.
Can you break down that acronym?
Oh, I'm sorry, International Economic Development Council. So it's a national, international organization of economic development organizations and municipalities and states around the country. And we also received, as part of that effort, the Rockefeller Foundation just gave us $25,000 to be able to help support that. And so we'll be engaging in that effort with the council as well as within the community as we're starting forward with that. But being able to take out of that initiative lessons learned that could then be used nationally as models is one that we're very excited about. But we also believe that the diversity of Montgomery County allows us to position ourselves to be a real leader in the inclusivity and racial equity issue. And that includes access to capital, reaching out to small businesses, especially small and women and minority-owned businesses, and being able to help stand them up in a way that will allow us to continue to take advantage of the strength of our population and also to make sure that underrepresented and underserved communities are also a beneficiary of what we believe will be a full economic recovery. We're already moving in that direction. If you take a look at our metrics like unemployment rate and other factors that we're moving towards a time in which we're not quite there yet, but we soon will be, we believe, and we have full confidence that we'll be there at pre-pandemic levels. And so that's one of the initiatives that we'll be undertaking to help further what is being called out in the strategic plan. And then the other point that you had raised about the need for communications and marketing, and this is something that Councilmember Katz had pushed very strongly back when he was council president, and we are developing a marketing and branding initiative. It's also called out in our action plan for MCDC to be able to do, as you say, highlight all the great assets and all of the great stories that we have, to be able to position ourselves and also to change the narrative for those who aren't quite convinced about the trajectory of Montgomery County and where we're headed and want to go. And so we're going to be initiating that sometime this summer. And we'll continue to keep the council apprised of that as well. But we're very excited about that initiative to be able to rebrand Montgomery County from an economic development perspective. And this will also help us not just change the narrative, but as we are now facing national and global pressures to be able to brand Montgomery County as a real leader and a real global competitor in certain key industry sectors that we believe that we need to be and have the resources to be able to be leaders in, such as life sciences and quantum in hospitality industry. We believe that that will also allow us to help continue to attract and also to retain companies that may be thinking about going elsewhere. So this will also serve us well as a business development tool.
I look forward to seeing that plan or engaging with you all when it comes out this summer, recognizing how important it is not only internally for the small businesses, medium-sized businesses here in the community, but also for the greater public and those not in Montgomery County to recognize that we are innovating. We are the home to some incredible global companies that are keeping our residents healthy and safe and doing so many other things. So I look forward to continuing to work with you on this living, breathing document, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. I've got Councilmember Katz, followed by Councilmember Jawando, and then Councilmember Navarro. Councilmember Katz.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you all for all of your hard work. It, and it shows. It truly does. I appreciate, candidly, getting to this point of the document. But a document is only a document. And you know exactly where I'm headed on this. I think so much of what you've said today is on target. And I congratulate MCEDC for everything that you're doing, but Ben, you mentioned that it's not just you, it's other groups as well that are going to be working on this, but you're the first group that's mentioned. So therefore it becomes, the ball literally is in your court. You have to figure out what other courts you need to have help with, but you're the group that we're putting our faith in to figure out how to change the narrative, literally, of what we're going through. And to attract businesses is extremely important. But to retain and expand businesses is probably the most important. And I don't know why I should say most, but it's certainly equally important. We need deadlines to make sure that what we're doing is working or it's not. And I think that becomes a very necessary part of what we do. And what happens when we don't meet those deadlines, and what happens with the greatest intentions, something doesn't work out. And no business has ever been in a perfect business. If it is, everybody's going to be in that business, and then they're not going to be in that business because competition is going to kill them. So we need to have a plan on how we get to the next steps. And if we don't get to the next step, what did and didn't work. I also think we need to take in mind, and we talk about our competition, and our competition is tough competition, which is a good thing in many ways. But if a company does go to the District of Columbia or any place else, and the person who works for that company makes the wise choice to live in Montgomery County, then we do get some of their income tax. So it's not like our competition can necessarily kill us. We need to figure out how we can best keep our competition to be helping us, as well as that we should get a little further. You were talking about a great place to live, work, and play, and Gatesburg used to always say live, work, learn, and play. And I think that we can keep our list going, but learning is an extremely important part of what we do. And I always talk about that we need to think about, as Councilmember Rice and Councilmember Vice President Glass mentioned about the small businesses. How many times have we heard the stories that somebody had a dream, and then they took their dream and they moved it to their bottom drawer of their desk, and then they got that small office building, or maybe they went to their garage first, then they went to the small office building, and they became roaring successes. I mean, one of the reasons AstraZeneca is in Montgomery County is because a business called MedImmune, which started out, in that small way, as MedImmune became the fourth largest biotech company in the world. And this was their world headquarters. There's a great sense of pride, but I believe what we need to do is not to forget about the incubators and the accelerators, because those businesses and some might move away. They become great success. They might move away. But a lot of them, this is home. And we need to make certain that they are being, continue to be appreciated. And the whole idea of why a business would move is a tough question. But we need to make sure that they do have access to capital, and we need to have a plan on how that's going to help. And sometimes you can attract a business because they say, well, if I go to Montgomery County, I know they're going to help me, and therefore I'll get to that next step. We need to have a real plan on how retention and expanding businesses can work. And this document really is a wonderful first step, and I think everybody that's involved in Montgomery County wants this document to really get us to that next step. But we need to have the whole ideas for flexibility when it doesn't work, and there's going to be things that don't. But if I do have a question, do you have any idea, any plan on retention and expanding businesses? Do we have any blueprint on that?
Oh, that's part of MCEDC's ongoing work plan, a retention plan, which actually we're going to report on at our next board meeting or the board meeting after, in terms of what it takes. And sometimes it's baby steps. So let me back up for a second.
Okay.
And I also want to go back to what Councilmember Rice talked about and Glass about the numbers of businesses that are small and perhaps ignored. I think our biggest challenge is how do we get to a scale that works, that impacts more people in a good way, a positive way, without spinning our wheels. And while, as an example, yes, we will absolutely get that letter out, and it will be a good letter, I can assure you, Councilmember Rice. But how do you go to the next step and go, well, which businesses are there that we should truly focus on? And sometimes the loudest the squeaky wheel, gets the say. And had I known, all your wife had to do is put a flag outside the window, because I drive by her shop every single day. And I've been trying to find somebody, by the way, who could do something with my hair.
Help me. I was going to ask.
It
was on the tip of my tongue. I wasn't going to start.
I should have just called you because I knew. Take advantage of what you're doing. But I think we have to get back to the scale issue in terms of making massive but important changes. And that is something that we all have to discuss and need to continue to refine. Our retention plans really take the tools that we have, and it could be something as simple as legislation that was passed to facilitate the expansion of life sciences companies, as an example, led by Councilmember Friedson just a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Making small changes with tax legislation, working with permitting, because the big guys can handle it. Is the smaller companies that are going to have the challenges. They cannot hire expediters. They don't have the resources to understand how complex county government can be. But it's those types of things that one step at a time, we put a very detailed list of things that say these are the things that matter in terms of retention. Our lease rates are not bad across a lot of different categories in this county, and that has a lot to do with retention. The MOVE program is small, but we just updated it in terms of recommendations as to what will make it more impactful and more powerful across a broader set of categories. So the answer is yes, absolutely. We have retention plans, but again, it does go back to scale, and it is not complete because of us trying to figure out how to better focus and, more importantly, to be more impactful.
And I appreciate that. And the other thing I did want to mention is that most people that have a dream don't want to read a thick document to get there. They want to run with the ball. They want to figure out how they're going to open a restaurant, how they're going to do all of those things. And the other thing we should really look at is culinary incubators. I mean that's to me is a great possibility for somebody that has the skill but doesn't have the money to open a restaurant. If they could have a culinary incubator, we might be able to help out in a whole lot of ways. So
that may be in the works. We just presented to the Fed committee sort of an update on the county's incubator network, and working very closely with the county executive's office, who owns our current incubators. We've recommended expanding that program so that it goes beyond incubators and accelerators and is more an entrepreneurship network. It's in our work plan. We'll be coming to present our budget soon, and part of our budget is dedicated to expanding that network beyond. And I think we also want to get away from the concept of the physical real estate incubator and move it more into the experiential at the same time. So we've recommended some changes to the existing network because those are two assets, and also working with incubators that are not owned by the county or accelerators that are here. There are conversations about a potential culinary incubator, the hospitality incubator I mentioned earlier, an incubator that is designed to support small and minority-owned businesses. And the question is, how do you do that so that, again, you move the needle? Is it about networking? Is it about supply chain? Is it about capital? My personal interest is in capital. Give people some money as long as they have the skill sets and the capabilities to know what to do with it. Don't just give it, but definitely provide the access. If that is critical, because a lot of people can't get through the door.
Yep.
So we can share more with you on that in the coming weeks.
Look forward to it. And I think it's all three. I think capital is the first thing. If you don't have the money, you can't talk about the other two. But I think it's all three. But I do look forward to working with you. And congratulations on getting this far. I mean, here we're taking some pot shots and saying we need more, and we do. But we've taken some great steps here today. Thank you. And I yield back, Mr. President.
And Councilmember Katz, if I could, just to follow up on your point regarding small business engagement. This is something that we've been struggling with a little bit. MCDC, as you know, is a new entity. In a sense, we're not far from just being that startup that was created by the council. And so, we want to have as strong and perfect our system as much as possible. For small business engagement, we work very closely with the county executives team, with the business advancement team, and then also with the county resource centers throughout the county. We don't have the ability to man or have outposts. So we recognize the importance of partnership. And so we do engage very closely with those entities, and we do have regular meetings. And our slogan is that basically for a business, there's no wrong point of entry. Either if they come to us at MCDC, they go to the County Resource Center, or they go through the Business Advancement Team. We will work together to try to solve problems. So it's a little troubling when Councilmember Rice's wife is unable to reach out to us because we try to create as open a process as possible, but we recognize that we need to perfect this because we do want people to know that not just MCDC exists, but also that we have these resources to bear. This is what the council is providing. This is what the county executive has personnel for. And so we will need to continue to try to perfect that system in order to make sure that small businesses know that these resources exist. We have a newsletter list of 20,000, but newsletters is just one point of information. We also try to have people on the ground through the county resource centers, and then the business advancement team has been strong advocates for businesses and trying to work through the process of government and trying to support any bureaucratic needs that are necessary. So we will continue to try to perfect this system and try to make it better. But we would be open also to any suggestions that you may have, because we do want to be as supportive, because I think the clear message that we receive and we believe is that small businesses and retention is so important, and being able to allow for that entrepreneurial spirit that allows for somebody to take an idea, to create a business, and then to be successful, and then hire people, and then also to pay taxes and be a part of our community is one that we want to be able to cultivate and nurture. That's what's in the strategic plan. That's what calls out for this need. I don't think anybody disputes that, but then once we get into the execution, if there are suggestions, please let us know, because we do want to be that resource, and we recognize that while we're not the entity that can do it on ourselves, we do want to be able to collaborate and partner with those other entities, especially in the executive branch, that will allow us to be able to leverage our assets and resources and support small business growth.
Well, and I think it would be, we have 911, we have 311. Maybe there should be a single phone number that someone who's looking or is having problems, or that they've just gotten a horrible information that they've lost their lease, could actually call that number, and you all could figure out where they need to make their next step. Because when somebody has that terrible feeling in the pit of their stomach, the first thing they want to do is find out somebody who's going to help them immediately. They want They want the 911 for their business. So I think that's something you should consider. Anyhow, I am going to yield back to you, Mr. President. Thank you. Thank you all.
Councilmember Jawando, followed by Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good conversation. Good to see you all. Good morning. We talked in Fed, obviously, about this, and good to see some feedback. I have two main topics I want to address. The metrics, which you addressed a little bit, Mr. Tompkins. And I read through the section in the report that addresses it, and we really have to nail down, and I understand you're trying to appreciate the update. You're trying to get to what are the measures, what are the exact metrics you're going to use. And this is probably not appropriate to put here, but I'd like to see those numbers. I think you need to come back to us, certainly in Fed, to talk about what those are so we can give feedback and so we have a baseline. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me just make clear that is a dynamic, ongoing discussion. We're trying to get some things done literally before next week, other things when we meet with you, so that we can have as many of these nailed down and also revised as needed. So that's for us ongoing every week until we get there.
Yeah, and it's iterative, and again, I always have my Constitution in my pocket too. I agree with Councilmember Glass. It's a living, breathing thing, but we want to be able to at least know where we are, where we're starting. We might change those measures, but let's just pick some, and so we can see where we are. The other big suggestion is building upon a conversation we've had before. I talk about this a lot as well. Several of my colleagues have. Our business community, extremely diverse, again, majority small, under 50 people, all over the county. Different parts of the county have different types of businesses that are, thriving in different sections. We don't have a good sense, and I say we really collectively, this is not just MCDC, this is the county, of who our businesses are and what they're doing and what they need, right? You can't, all those things flow from you if you don't know who they are, where they are and what they need and what the demographics and composition of them are. We just cannot provide the best service. Now the good thing is because we have great fundamentals here, we have a lot of people just thriving and figuring it out, right? That's what innovation is. But there's an opportunity cost when we don't know. And one of the things, I'd asked OLO to look into, can you get some data on who our businesses are? Our businesses of color, our women-owned businesses, what they're doing, where they are. And they're going to report back to us, but the initial, the data is not great. Using available statistics and Bureau of Labor Statistics and others, we're not able to get to the level of granularity that I think we need to, given that 95% of our businesses are 50 or less and people of color. So I think one of the goals of the county, and I think MCDC would be the right entity to shepherd this process, not alone, would be a biannual survey that's contracted out to really get down. The good thing about our size is if you do a survey with a big enough sample size, you can get statistically significant information and really deep and rich information about who our businesses are and what they're doing and what they need. And I think you all should lead that contracting process. We have to have that as a county, and the county agencies to support it and provide feedback and input into it. But so I want to make that suggestion here today, and that's something that I think should go in a document like this. And you can certainly, I see you're ready to comment on any thoughts on that particular suggestion, but also what you're already doing to try to get to that level of granularity of knowing who our businesses are so we know what they need.
Well, because I've worked with you in the past on the Fed committee, I'm aware of our conversations about that particular issue and putting funding and a group of people against that. So we fully support it and we'll absolutely at least start with that. And it's not, again, just MCEDC. It really is the county, the databases that we have, but more importantly, reaching out to the business community to get their attention so that they're willing to give us the information. Yeah. Because it's not just going to be based on what we find through different databases. A lot of them don't exist. Yeah. It's getting them to record the information and the incentive to give us the information. So there has to be sort of a return on the investment for them. So absolutely, we do believe this is important. We've been talking about it for a long time. We have put a very small amount of money into our budget to do on a small scale, to piggyback money that you guys, the Fed Committee, have recommended for minority businesses to get that directory going and to make sure that it is as complete as possible.
Yep.
So that's the first step, to figure out how well does that work, and then in a parallel way to work on the much larger business database.
I appreciate that, and I was going to mention the work Councilmember Reamer and I and Councilmember Friedson and everyone supported to help do that for black businesses and fund a third party to help build out that network. But we need to do it holistically, and I think you all are the right shepherding entity.
Councilmember
Yes.
Juwando, if I could add, I do know that the Fed Committee has really taken real leadership in this issue, and I do appreciate the suggestion that you made. Data analytics, I think, is very important because it's a linchpin for the decisions that policymakers and lawmakers as they deliberate on plans and policies and statutes that need to be made. Also, it gives us a snapshot of our county and allows us to have better metrics of performance and evaluations. We have tried through our efforts at MCDC to focus on data analytics and the partnership that we have with the executive branch, especially with Dave Gottesman, who heads up County Stat. We've also forged a relationship to share information and research with the Planning Board. They have a wealthy trove of information and also analysts. But I think your suggestion about having this holistic survey is an excellent one, and we'll commit to trying to execute that because I do see real value in that to follow up, not just with the strategic plan, but also in a number of initiatives that we're undertaking because we want to make sure that the investments that we're going to be making in inclusive economy, in other initiatives, especially on innovation, that we are able to target the right people and that we can make sure that there is a benefit towards the end. And so we want to thank you and the Fed Committee for their leadership in that effort.
Great. Thank you. And let us know, obviously that's something would require funding and it's something should be in the budget. We should get that going ASAP. The other thing I wanted to mention is just qualitative, kind of that's a quantitative approach, kind of the qualitative work of, last year I highlighted a business a week in Montgomery County to try to support through the pandemic. We called it Our Community, Our Businesses. So we did 52 every week of last year. You all partnered, shared some of those. I appreciate that. Everything from adaptive phage therapeutics to a local bakery, the whole range of our, really unique businesses. And I asked them all, I said, I just was testing it. I said, do you know who MCDC is? Some said yes. It wasn't. So don't. You were holding your breath there, Bill. But a lot didn't, and then I said also, well, do you know what's available for the county? I also didn't just put it on you. To your point, this is a holistic effort. I think there's a group there that could be a good sounding board. I'll just send you the list. I mean, you could pull it up, but we'll send you the list, or create your own, but by industry of where you have like a focus group. I know you have a board. And some of them were consulted in the creation of this document. But I do think having kind of a regular check-in with a diverse group of business leaders across the county, maybe you're doing that. But I think that could be something that could be helpful, too, to inform as we do this other deeper dive analysis. Do you do something like that? Would that be helpful to you?
It would absolutely be helpful. We do it informally, back to your point. And by the way, don't worry about me holding my breath. The question comes up every day. Who knows who MCEDC is? And did I know who they were before I joined? The answer was no. So we understand that and accept that. It's not an issue for us. It's like, what do we do? And by the way, I don't care whether they know who we are as long as they know the answer to what we do.
Right.
So either way, I'm fine. Whether they know us or they go, well, we know the business.
I don't even know if I know the acronym right now. So, I do, but,
Either way, we're fine. Does not bother me in the least. To the degree that we can get people saying, yes, I know where to go, what to do, and how to succeed, that's what matters the most.
Great. All right. So I appreciate that. Thank you for taking the suggestion. I think it could be helpful as we're moving forward. Both suggestions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilmember Navarro, followed by Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has been very, very useful. I do want to just frame some of this conversation as well to the point where when we decided to create the Economic Development Corporation, there was a lot of conversation, and I recall so many conversations with Councilmember Berliner regarding what to do with these small businesses, because there were models in Prince George's County and Arlington County that did incorporate a very strong small business component, and it was decided not to do that, but then the decision was that we would strengthen other areas within county government to provide that support to the small businesses. I do want to point, though, and note that in 2017, it was literally in March, because I just pulled that particular email to then the director, David Petter. I requested a meeting with Councilmember Berliner to address some of these issues, and there had been a collaboration, as I said before, with Prince George's County and Arlington County with the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber regarding strengthening the small business component in that collaboration. And that led to the creation of the minority, the Director of Small Business and Minority Business Development, which I think now has a different title, Business Diversity and Inclusion Director. So I just want to point that out, because this issue of really truly incorporating our small business ecosystem has always been front and center. And in 2017, a position was created after that request that Councilman Berliner and I made to the Economic Development Corporation, so that we do have a position there. And perhaps maybe this is one thing that could be discussed in further committee sessions is, how are we leveraging that position? What exactly can be, strengthened if that is the need or the direction of that particular component. But I wanted to share that as a point of information. The other piece, and I know Councilman Friesen will appreciate this, is that we had a very long conversation when he reached out to me about introducing this bill, was this notion of the fact that all the work that we did in 2019, which is amazing how many things we did in 2019 that now have become so important. This exercise of developing the particular platform, the economic development platform, that exercise that I led along with many of you, really was to be a point of a framework that we could all then embrace. And many of the questions that I have heard were already discussed in 2019 when we passed this particular economic development platform. It did highlight many of these components, like the inclusion of our nonprofit community, how important it was. And this is under the assets, right? We listed all of that, the diverse communities, the much quality of life, including numerous cultural, natural, and recreational amenities, an excellent education system that is preparing and training the workforce of tomorrow, a highly entrepreneurial and talented workforce. And that goes to that conversation about our entrepreneurs and small businesses driving innovative discoveries and life-saving medicines. Now, remember, this is 2019 that we had these conversations. And of course, nonprofit business delivering critical services to our communities, region, and the world. And of course, it had those 4 pillars, as we have discussed. The business development, Councilmember Katz talked about retaining and expansion. That is all included here in this platform that we adopted in 2019. And then under housing, workforce development, and transportation, we have many of those particular overarching goals very much included on there. But the part that I thought was so powerful was really what our desire state was. And it was a thriving and diversified economy, innovation, racial equity and social justice, environmental sustainability. And so I am really pleased that we have incorporated that into this strategic plan, but I hope that we're not back here, 3 years from now having sort of the same conversations, because I think this was really what propelled me to bring all these different stakeholders together in 2019. It was because folks kept saying there isn't a clear framework. There isn't a clear, succinct document that we can go to and we can sort of figure out, like, where are we going, right? And so a lot of time was spent doing this, and I just feel like there's still some areas that, we don't seem to have addressed fully, even though we spent all that time having the same conversation. So just one thing, because I know sometimes we get criticized, in government saying that we kind of do the same thing over and over again. But the question that I have really is it's more of a macro question. You know, a lot of conversation in different bodies, whether it's Council of Governments, whether it's at NACO, just really trying to figure out the impact of this pandemic. A lot has been written about how it indeed has accelerated lots of changes that we were tracking pre-2020. Now it's literally has been accelerated to maybe a factor of 5 years. So when we talk about innovation, I'm really curious about, you know, what are the thoughts that have gone into this particular strategic plan? Because even in 2019 with the platform, we talk about innovation, but now in terms of just addressing, taking into consideration what the pandemic has done, how it has affected the workspace, industries, you know, the use of office space, but also it has opened the doors to a lot of really awesome entrepreneurial ventures as well. So can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and how would that be folded into, as I said in my opening remarks, this living document, this living, breathing document? How are you seeing that, and how will you incorporate it as we're going through and executing on this?
Well, Councilmember Navarro, I think you've correctly pointed out the importance of innovation. Montgomery County's heartbeat is a thriving, innovation-led economic development strategic future. And this plan tries to prioritize those innovation industry sectors that the county should embrace. And of course, life sciences is among them. You know, we have had great significant growth in life sciences from 2019, even during the pandemic. And that growth will continue to the point where now our biggest challenge is to be able to accommodate that growth through enough laboratory infrastructure that will be able to meet the demand surge necessary for our life sciences business attraction as well as expansion and retention efforts. And so we also have designated hospitality as a priority. We have in Montgomery County 50% of the largest publicly traded companies that are in the hospitality space, of course led by Marriott. And if you extend across the river to Hilton, we have 70% in the greater Washington area. And then other areas that we have targeted for innovation growth include quantum. Quantum is a nascent technology, but it holds not such great potential, but it holds the future for not just economic security for the country, but also national security. And the presidential administration has identified quantum as a national priority. And in terms of the companies and the research that is being done, especially nearby at the University of Maryland College Park, that we will soon connect to Montgomery County in a more meaningful way through the Propel line. We see great opportunities, especially at the intersection of quantum and life sciences. And also engaging with our federal assets such as NIH, NIST, where a number of the quantum efforts first began, and being able to utilize quantum in a way that will put us at the cutting edge of life sciences through new discoveries, drug manufacturing, and research. So we see great potential in the future of quantum, but also quantum is important because regionally we have all these assets with the federal agencies on the national security side, including DOD and Pentagon, to NSA over in Anne Arundel County, but also with NIH, NIST, to be able to leverage those federal assets to be able to really position the greater Washington area and in Montgomery County in particular to be an epicenter for quantum. We also have identified cybersecurity as an innovation priority area. Cybersecurity is becoming even more important now as we look at the warnings that the administration has given to companies about potential Russian and other foreign attacks to our computer systems. And we recognize the importance of not just the industry, but also developing that workforce in all of these areas. And we have partnered up with Howard County's Economic Development Authority to support their Build Back Better program application. They were one of the 60 finalists for the $1 billion federal Build Back Better program. And collectively, we're trying to create a cyber workforce solution program in the state of Maryland, but also within Montgomery County. We have at NIST, the National Center for Cybersecurity Excellence, that we are partnering with to be able to help support their mission, but also to be able to integrate more of the local cyber companies to be able to engage with this critical national laboratory. And we'll be renewing a MOU with the National Cybersecurity Center of Excellence as well. And then on advanced technologies, this is an area that the county executive has also expressed a great deal of interest and support in. And we have companies like robotics that we're continuing to ensure that robotics research remains in Montgomery County and continue to grow. They just received most recently a $252 million series funding and they are committed to Montgomery County if we can continue to keep them here with the right facility. So within all of those areas, we see continued growth because these innovation-led companies are not just helping generate revenue, but creating new jobs and continuing to brand Montgomery County as a innovation leader, not just regionally and nationally, but globally as well. And so I think that's one of the priorities for the action plan, the strategic plan that you've seen, is to be able to help us sustain this innovation growth that Montgomery County is known for, that creates these high-paying jobs, that allows us to continue to be the lead in a number of industries that will allow us to enhance not just our economy, but also the quality of life and the health of citizens around the world.
I really appreciate that response. Let me just rephrase as a council member, right? What I'm hearing specifically when you talk about and describe the opportunity around, quantum, what I'm hearing are things like, the importance to prioritize, as you mentioned, transportation, you mentioned the Purple Line, how that is going to connect. I'm hearing workforce development, which is also supported by our racial equity and social justice work, because in order for us to be able to truly position ourselves for all of these opportunities, we will need a qualified workforce. And that allows and opens these extraordinary partnerships, especially in areas of the county where we know we're lacking, jobs, to connect with our high schools, with our college, with USG, to prepare that pipeline, right? I'm hearing things like business development, because of course, as we try to attract all of these particular companies, maybe some are startups, maybe some are, midway there, we can utilize these assets to bring them here and retain them. So I'm hearing that. And I'm also, of course, constantly thinking about housing. And it's, something that this council has really taken ownership of, because if we don't have different types of housing, it's going to be difficult for us to create that ecosystem. And so I really appreciate that response, because this is how I am thinking whenever we identify these particular areas that we're prioritizing. I'm thinking about all these elements, and it's very exciting because it really does illustrate the assets that we do have in the county and how we need to leverage them, as long as we are strategic, right? I see where we can go with this, and again, it's just, I think it's good news all around. So I appreciate your response, and to me, when we talk about narrative, something I've been mentioning over and over again, shifting our narrative. This is what it does when we're able to break it into these different elements. I think this is how not just our business community, but our residents are able to then understand what is it that we're talking about when we mention economic development, undergirded by racial equity and social justice and all these other components. This is the narrative. This is how you break it into pieces. And also this is hopefully how future councils can work with the executive and our state legislators to promote these components so that we can eventually have this very vibrant ecosystem. Thank you so much. I appreciate all the work that has gone into this. And again, very, very happy to have worked with Councilmember Friedson and Reamer on this very important document, and can't wait to see what we can accomplish together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Navarro. And if I could just add, as you mentioned, strategic and tactical approaches to supporting these industry sectors. For example, in quantum, our near-term objective, because quantum's a long-term play in order for us to be a real lead on this, but we think we have the assets. And so tactically, what we like to do is initially help to brand the greater Washington area as a quantum epicenter, losing all the resources that we have within the greater Washington region, the National Capital Region, and then to be able to hone down, working with our MCPS and our post-secondary academic institutions, USG, and as well as Montgomery College, to be able to help put quantum in the curriculum and have quantum sector strategies and also curriculum development. And Dr. McKnight, Dr. Damian, and now Dr. Williams over at Montgomery College are all bought in on this notion, and they recognize the assets of being able to use our academic institutions to be able to support this workforce. Because once we are able to brand the area and companies are looking to make investments and say, we want to be in the National Capital Region, and they look around, and if we have the workforce that is ready to go, then they're more likely to make the investments and come to Montgomery County. And so we have these assets. We have the only quantum high school club in the country over at Blair. We'd like to be able to establish more of those, not just within the public schools, but also in the private schools. And Dr. McKnight has been very willing to be supportive of that. We also recognize through our Montgomery College and also USG the importance of creating curriculum development and those academic institutions helping us undergird the workforce needs, and then working with our federal agencies that already have quantum in their budget is all part of the near-term strategy that we're trying to use to elevate Montgomery County and position ourselves for quantum in not just the greater Washington region, but also nationally.
That's awesome. That sounds wonderful. Music to my ears. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Councilmember Friedson. Then I have a couple of comments, and we're going to do a straw vote, probably by acclamation, because we've got a committee recommendation. But Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate this conversation, all the work and collaboration that's gone into it. I will say, first of all, I'm hearing about the Quantum Club at Blair High School. I know that Councilmember Rice is excited to hear that. I think the council president and I are wondering why Churchill and Whitman don't have quantum clubs, so we're going to have to work on that. And I was listening to Councilmember Jawando earlier talk about asking the businesses he had been touring and visiting of who knew Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. I was just thinking to myself, I'm glad he didn't ask them to name the 9 members of the county council, because I think I'd be a little humbled by that acknowledgement as well. But I think it's important to acknowledge as we how we started and how we finished. We talked a little bit today about some of the challenges, the problems that we face. The document is really focused on the possibilities that we have if we focus what our assets are and we work together. And I really wanted to make sure that we honed in on that. And we talked a lot about one of the main assets that we have beyond strategic industries and opportunities based on some of our unrivaled economic bones are our small businesses. And we did learn during the pandemic that we, not just MCEDC, but county government in general, really lacks the mechanisms to do the type of outreach to these organizations as we would like. We struggled and we learned, and we've gotten better, and there's a lot more that we need to do in order to make sure that we are directly communicating and working with our local businesses, most of whom, as we heard earlier, are locally owned, family owned, and have fewer than 50 employees, an overwhelming number, about 90+%. And that's not just an effort of MCEDC. I think it's important, as was noted here, that's work that the regional service centers have been doing and will continue to do and need to build upon. That's work of the business advancement teams, and I know Jake Weissman and our business advancement team and the executive branch are working hard at that. But that's really a collective effort for all of us to be able to do that type of outreach that we learned that we have room to grow and build upon during the pandemic. One of the many lessons we learned, in addition to so many others. And in terms of the metrics, I think it's a really important piece. It was an area that we focused a lot during the Fed committee. We've never really had metrics before. And so this is a significant step forward. And this document, once we approve it, I hope by acclamation, it will agree upon what we are going to measure, which is significant. And then, as Councilmember Jawando noted, and as we talked extensively in committee, and I have had numerous conversations with Dave Gottesman and with the executive branch and with MCEDC, then the question is to determine how do we define success? What is the exact benchmark within those metrics that determines whether or not we are succeeding or failing, and then holding ourselves accountable? I talk a lot about the Seinfeld reservations, right? It's one thing to take the reservation, another thing to keep the reservation. We can't just have a plan. We have to execute the plan. We can't just have metrics. We have to measure them and then determine whether or not we are succeeding or failing based on them. But in order to do that, we have to have the plan in place. And that's what this does. It is, as has been noted, a living, breathing document. That is how it is intended. I really am pleased. I am proud that we have come this far. We have a lot further we need to go, and it will be a journey that we take on together. But at least now we've created an atlas that we can all agree to on what is the destination, what is the focus, and how do we want to work together to make it happen. So that was the whole intention of putting this forward, and I really appreciate Councilmember Navarro just finishing up and Councilmember Reamer starting with really the background of how we got here, because this effort didn't start with this bill or anywhere close to it. It started well before that with so many of the efforts in the first year of this council under Councilmember Navarro's leadership as council president, and with Councilmember Reamer and his work in the prior council with Roger Berliner. So with that, I'm just really pleased and appreciative, and look forward to moving this forward, and look forward to the conversations about the possibilities that we have in Montgomery County and how we can execute to be as strong as the sum of our economic parts. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thanks. A lot of great comments from colleagues. I do have a couple comments myself. So appreciate the effort. Impressive document, connects a lot of dots and confirms a lot of the conversations we've been happening in a number of different circles for a number of different years. As Councilmember Friedson noted, with the destination, oftentimes the voyage to get to a document like this is as important as the destination itself, and is a tool, is a vehicle to bring stakeholders in and engage so that they feel like they've got skin in the game, that they've been part of the process. Just a quick question. Were there focus groups or surveys? How did we arrive at the overall document? Just curious as with regards to process.
Sure. It was called all of the above.
Great.
We had very intentional focus groups. Quite often they were groups of individuals that had common themes. But I also want to caution you, we also decided not to reinvent the wheel. There are so many blank studies in Montgomery County about economic development and what's happened before, back to Councilmember Navarro's point of view about what happened in 2016 or 2019, that this is not new and this was not rocket science. So we had 30 or 40 studies, 10 or 12 of which have been done in the last 12 months, or at the time we were doing that. So we relied on the information provided and the sources of that information provided as much as we did going back to individuals for the 15th time. So it was really a combination of everything, because we had a rich source of material that already existed. We also got calls that says, don't ask me this question again, because they had been involved in what the county executive did in terms of the recovery from the pandemic. So it was a mix of everything. We have a spreadsheet of the different groups that we talked to and different individuals. We took advantage of having just done Connecting the Dots, which had 33 recommendations, which were a combination of a 20-panel cross-section of individuals across the county representing different industries, and those also represented 10 or 15 other studies that had just been done. So if you thought we were going to start from scratch, the answer is no. Did we go get new information? Absolutely.
Yeah, Council President, we were informed and guided by the fact that there were several strategic plans and action plans that were created by different agencies and organizations that touched upon the components of this strategic plan. For example, not just our MCDC Connecting the Dots report, but also the Planning Board had their exercise. We also had the county executives and climate change report, Corridors Forward from Department of Transportation. Workforce Montgomery had their 2-year strategic plan. So there was a confluence of a number of overarching plans that we were able to seek input from that also had a great deal of input from the public as well as other stakeholders. So we tried as our best to be able to incorporate those plans and have them reflected in the strategic plan as much as possible.
That makes perfect sense. I think articulating that more clearly and how this is an amalgam of a lot of different efforts over a number of different years would be a benefit to folks who may be waking up to this and saying, well, nobody asked me, because they'd already been asked in a different forum. And connecting that dot, I think, will be important. But as was noted by you all earlier, despite our best efforts, there are many businesses and sectors we haven't been able to reach. And so this could be a good vehicle moving forward to solicit that feedback in a way that's more direct. And it's a big document with a lot of moving parts. It's a living, breathing document. But what is the plan moving forward to roll this out? Will there be sort of a synthesized version, more elevator speechy, that is easier for people to process, digest, clam onto, get excited about, and feel a part of? Where do we go from here? And then I know Mr. Weissman would like to make a few comments, and after I get that response, I will turn it over to you to make those comments.
Well, we've always felt that we were the catalyst per Councilmember Friedsen's bill to begin the conversation and the discussion. But this was not a document in which MCDC had ownership over. This is a document that had a number of participants from the county executive to the county council. So we hadn't planned out or scheduled what goes next. We certainly will be happy to work with the council and the executive to determine how best to roll this out. We are already incorporating a number of execution items already. You see that in our internal workings, but also I think it's reflected in other agencies as well. But we'd be happy to open up that conversation to be able to see how we can engage not just the council more deliberately, but also the community once this plan is out there, because in a sense this is our plan, not our being the collective we. That this is a plan for Montgomery County, and to, as I said before, to help answer the question of where does Montgomery County stand, what are our visions and what is our values of economic development, and what are our priorities.
I appreciate that, but as was noted in the development of the legislation, you all are in the best position, I think, to connect those dots. And so I do think it would be very helpful, and would love to work with you, and I know all of my colleagues would as well, in figuring out what the next phases are in terms of rollout so that this incredibly important document, and I have one more suggestion to make before turning it over to Mr. Weissman, so that, as Councilmember Navarro noted, we're not here 3 years from now having the same conversations. That with those metrics that we all feel ownership of and we all are a part of, and then we need our business community to be singing from the hills all the great things that are in this document, not just us and you all. And to do that, we need a consolidated and coordinated plan to get them excited, as they have been on many other issues.
Well, Mr. President, if you want to empower us to do that, we'd be happy to undertake that responsibility.
Awesome. And I know the leads on this bill who did a fantastic job putting it together, and I really credit our Fed committee for having robust conversations. I know are committed to that as well. Last component, and this is internal, acknowledging we all have skin in the game. Another important component to the recommendations that Councilmember Navarro made in her framework in 2019 were that each committee on the council be focused on how it can connect to economic development. And we were never able to fully implement that, in part because the pandemic just sidetracked so much. But I think we need to resurrect it because it was a really important recommendation. Because every committee on this council, every action we take is connected to economic development. But if we can quantify that and have us focus even more on it, to be able to better connect dots from a policy perspective and budget, connected to the recommendations laid out in this really impressive document, will be helpful. So if we can be more direct about that. So thank you so much, Mr. Smith. I see you taking notes there. So Mr. Weissman, I'll turn it over to you to make some comments on behalf of the executive branch, and then we'll go to the straw vote.
I appreciate it, Council President. I'll be quick. My wife would be impressed that I had a microphone in front of me for 2 hours and didn't say a single word, so I'll have to brag about that tonight. Do want to thank MCEDC for their work on this and their partnership, as well as the Fed Committee for the hours that they put into it, and really tip of the cap to Mr. Smith, who really corralled us all into making this happen, together with my partner Dave Gottesman from County Stat. And the various department heads who looked this over for the county executive's response. I do just want to say there's a lot of exciting things going on with economic development in this county, and this document will help us to accelerate those, and it is in part on what several of you said about marketing. I just quickly pulled together a list just in the life sciences between the announcement of Trammell Crow at Bellward Farm, Stonebridge, Evolution Labs, Mattins, Milestone Labs. The list goes on and on. Obviously, the ZTA that the council passed a couple weeks ago helps to accelerate that. These metrics that we've put together will allow for the first time, I think, some real accountability to make sure that the executive branch, MCEDC, and our partners are held accountable to make sure that we can provide that information and that we are doing what this plan lets out. That's the natural evolution of, I think, what's been worked on since Councilmember Navarro's 19300 back in 2019. I do just want to say the county executive is engaged in this one and is looking forward to the continued partnership with the council and MCEDC on this, and appreciate the work of the council on this. Thank you.
Great. All right, so colleagues, we've got a committee recommendation, and that we support this plan as has been presented to us. We'll formally vote on this next week, but just checking the straw vote here by acclamation. Are we in support of the committee recommendation? Okay. And
aye.
Great. So that is unanimous. So we look forward to the formal vote next week. But thank you all very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
All right, we have one more item on the agenda before recess, and that is the consent calendar. Can I get a motion to accept the consent calendar? So moved by Councilmember Hucker, seconded by Councilmember Rice. Any discussion regarding the consent calendar? Hearing no comments, all those in favor of the consent calendar, please raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
And that is unanimous among all those present and virtual. So with that, we will now recess, colleagues. Remember, we have a virtual lunch meeting with the Montgomery County Retired Employees Association. You should have the link for that virtual meeting in your calendars. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.